The Brian Mudd Show is on News Radio 610 WIOD.
My mom is in Berlin, my granny and my little brother too, but my dad is in Kiev. My family, my whole family, except my dad, is in a safety place. I'm so sad about my family, but I'm so happy because I'm here. This was my dream, so for me, it's amazing.
That are nothing short of remarkable. And, you know, we see pictures of what's happening, and we see refugees pouring into neighboring countries. But largely, that's about the last that we know, right, of what happens right now. And there are a lot of questions. Will the situation become stable in Ukraine anytime soon? When the conflict is done, what will be left of the country? Will there be anything for people to go back to? Will families need to permanently relocate in parts of Europe or perhaps here in the United States? How the heck, when you leave everything behind, do you move on with the next day? And how do you push forward? There's so much here that is, I think, beyond us and overwhelming. And we get a sense of the humanitarian crisis, but that's about the extent of what we can appreciate. And on this note, some perspective, and also from a place of faith as well. There's a neat story. It's a book released in November called Miracles on My Doorstep. Immigrating to America, Faith Finds Freedom. And written by a couple of authors, mother-daughter team, Linda Kaye and Lorraine Snider-Hanley, who her parents immigrated from Ukraine. I imagine there's a lot of emotion involved in what we're seeing right now. Joining us is Linda Kaye. Linda, thank you for taking the time with us.
Good morning, Brian. Thank you for having me.
If you can shed a little light on what we're witnessing and what these Ukrainians are going through as they're desperately leaving the country and not really sure what's next.
You know, it's a terrifying notion that somebody would be bombing and you would be thinking they couldn't possibly mean me. I'm not military. What do I have to do with this war? Right. But, you know, when I interviewed my mom for the book, in our first chapter, we talked about the terror that they felt, that they could only leave in the dark of night, which many Ukrainians are expressing on NPR and other radio stations about how they've had to turn the lights off or disengage the battery so that their car alarm did not go off and get detected. You know, we've escalated this war in a way that I think everybody should be looking at, not just from a Ukrainian perspective, but from a worldwide perspective. When you take a more global view, Brian, the potential for this to escalate out of control is there. You've got, you know, a desperate despot who is even more dangerous than he was when he was just simply a dictator. Can you imagine?
Now, you bring up an excellent point, and it's one of the big questions right now. Is Putin actually more dangerous when he appears weakened than if he had been successful quickly in Ukraine? These are all awful thoughts and considerations. When you talking to your mom, and also from the point of your grandparents that immigrated over a long time ago, what was the perspective then in coming to this country?
They had seen the crisis, the humanitarian crisis, in what they at that time had, which was pogroms, and they saw the many sacrifices. If you spoke about your belief, you could be sent off to Siberia and never seen again. So even though it's on a much, much smaller scale, how many crises do you need to experience in order to know this is a real serious problem? They came for faith, and when the ability and a rabbi that came for passage that gave them the ability to find a buyer for their property and get the money to get even just steerage on a ship to be able to come to America. He said, go to America, go to New York. I hear that you may be able to get land. And what a remarkable goal for you to leave, knowing that you could be killed during the process, killed during the voyage, killed if you were caught, but you had to try because anything was better than nothing. And the ability to get to America, and when they came to America, there was homesteading available in rural areas of the United States that was not populated at that time. And they went to North Dakota to get a hectare of land and amongst their families, which is a pretty good sized parcel, 640 by 640 acres to the mile. And they came for freedom. They came for their faith. They believed that God would get them there. God would get them in safe passage, and all of them made it. When you think about, I think about this one thing, Brian, but my Harchenko family had 14 children when they were before they came, and when they arrived, there were only 9. So the massacre that they talked about, and these were all spoken about in hushed circles because they were afraid that word would get back to Russia or to Ukraine, and they would be found and dragged back to, if you can imagine, the terror in their minds and their thoughts. Because I asked my grandmother, so why didn't you teach us, teach Mom how to speak Ukrainian or speak Russian? She was very swift to say, when you come to America, you speak English. That was it. I didn't get to ask her again. She was very adamant about it because they spoke Russian in the home, Ukrainian actually. And when my mom was 5, my grandmother refused to say anything else to her except in English. So remarkable. It was like, embrace where you're going. God will get you there. Have the faith to get there. And that's what brought them.
Well, and speaking of faith, and, this is so much of what's in Miracles on My Doorstep, and with your mom being widowed when she was young, having 4 young children, and still being able to stay on course. What is the role of faith, and how important do you think that is in this particular moment in human history?
Gosh, I wish my mom was answering that because she's so articulate about it. Faith is the unseen. It's the unknown. It's the belief. And faith is what got her through this point in her life. She's going to be 91 in May. And at 90 years old, even at 87, when she went blind, completely blind, again, she said, Linda, I may have lost my sight, but I haven't lost my vision. I know where I'm going. Some
amazing perspective. And Linda, may God bless you and your mom, your whole family, and thank you for taking the time with us. We appreciate it.
God bless you, Brian. Thank you so much for your time this morning.